sensational for Cincinnati. Mitch Hildebrand, the hero, and the underdogs have prevailed once again.
I would like to present the USL Regular Season Championship to FC Cincinnati. Congratulations to the players, the staff, and most importantly, the fans on a record-breaking season. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your regular season champions, FC Cincinnati.
In a foot race, Cincinnati plays this across. Vasquez with the finish. Brandon Vasquez gives Cincinnati the 2-1 lead. A late breakdown by Red Bull.
Well, Dylan Nealis gets beaten, and nobody covers the streaking run. Unbelievable.
Montréal got under that. Oh! What a goal for FC Cincinnati! You couldn't dream that any better. Goal of the tournament. Maybe the history of the tournament. Alvaro Barreal makes it 2-0.
Acosta beats one man one-on-one and another. This is still Lucho Acosta continuing on. Acosta! Oh my goodness!
The Flying Lion says,
boys, hell is real.
2023 Supporter Shield champs.
So glad that I can be back with people who know that it's a Flying Lion.
It shows how much we all love this club.
Yeah, just a fan of the sport, you know.
It's definitely tougher to be in a catch player than it is a pro.
In this club, you don't play just for the club, you play for the ball.
Swap, car of the week, trivia question of the week.
Welcome back to another episode of the Flying Line podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today, we've got one of the absolute staples of FC Cincinnati coverage, someone who's been covering the team since 2015, since the beginning. She's the founder of Queen City Press, and she's also put in work covering the Bengals as well. Please welcome the one and only Laurel Pfahler. Laurel, welcome to the show. It's awesome to finally have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on here anytime.
So to kind of just intro, if you want to tell people how you kind of began covering the team, what you do, why you do what you do, and kind of just let people know once again, like who you are. Yeah.
So I started pretty much right after the team launched, WCPO.com. I knew the editor there. He knew this was going to be a big deal with FC Cincinnati, with Carl Lindner being, the owner and taking it seriously. And so he wanted to get right in on the ground running with coverage. So he asked, I love soccer. So he asked me if I wanted to cover the team. And so I was doing, stories in the first off season with the roster build, and did a big feature on John Harkes, and just did a lot of stuff leading up to that first year, and then kept it going. And then once they got into MLS, The Athletic asked me to go on and cover the team as well for them. So I was kind of doing both until the pandemic. And pretty much at that point, everyone first froze their freelancers. There was obviously no games for a while. So I was technically frozen, and then they kind of just never brought me back, because that was how it was with all the freelancers at that point. So when I thought I was still coming back, I was like, well, I don't want to stop covering the team. There were still stories to be told while they were, waiting for the season to get going again. So I started on Patreon and just thought it was temporary. And then by the start of I guess that would have been 2021 season, I realized that, okay, this is my full-time thing now. So that's when I went full go with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
It's awesome. We, again, appreciate what you do. And even from the start, to kind of be there and to tell the story of the team kind of as things have gone along. It's pretty cool to see. And I'm sure from your perspective as well, in being a soccer fan. So where does that fandom come from? Did you play when you were younger, or have a team that you supported?
Yeah, I played. I had two brothers growing up. I was the middle child, so I had it coming from both angles. My dad loved sports, and my mom was actually an English teacher, so that's where the writing comes from. But She's actually a really good writing coach. But yeah, I loved playing, and at the time I actually hated watching soccer. Like, I just wanted to play, and it was boring to sit and watch. But once I played pretty much through high school. Actually, my club coach was NKU's coach Bob Sheehan, best coach. He is awesome. And so I just learned from a really good soccer coach growing up, and then kind of just ended it there after high school. Wanted to just focus on my whatever career. I figured I was going to go into journalism because I had started taking some journalism classes in high school, and kind of saw it as a way to mix two passions with writing and soccer. And yeah, once I got out of the game, it was like, man, I can't get enough. Like, I got to watch it now. So it's been a lot of fun to be able to keep covering stay involved in the sport through just covering it and watching it every day.
So was there ever like a time where you fell in love covering a certain sport, right? Because you talked about how soccer was a little boring to watch at the beginning. So I mean, I know you went to Ohio University, correct? Right?
Yes.
So was it at like Ohio? Maybe you like fell in love with like covering a certain sport, like football or soccer. Which one kind of was it first?
Well, I would say probably it came in high school. Like, I just loved being around athletes, and I loved just telling their stories. And actually, I can give a shout out to an FC Cincinnati fan. When I was in high school, I wrote what ended up being the National Sports Story of the Year, judged by the LA Times. It was on this. I went to Lakota East High School, and one of the players on the baseball team had gotten into he had a pretty serious head injury and like was in a like coma, and like it ended up being a good story of perseverance. But I met him, like, I don't know, at some point after I started covering FC Cincinnati, and I was like, I know you, I wrote a story about you. He was like, yeah, I have all these copies of it. So I don't know, I just loved telling those stories of like the perseverance, like the human behind the athletes. I just feel like it's incredible the amount of work that they, especially professional athletes later, as I dealt with that, like just the work that they put into their craft. And it's kind of, you think about it, kind of silly them, we're paying all this money to watch them play a game, but
yeah, we know.
But yeah, I would just say it started kind of just with enjoying being around athletes. But yeah, it was mostly like, I actually liked basketball was the sport I really liked covering the most at first. And then, but when you get to college and you get a chance to cover, I mean, Ohio football was terrible when I was there. They lost to Buffalo, who had the nation's longest losing streak at the time when I was covering the team. So they were really bad. But I mean, that was the sport that everyone cared about. And so it was a lot of fun to, be able to, feed that craving that fans had to get more information on their terrible football team. Yeah. But yeah, and then once soccer actually became an option to cover, I was like, oh yeah, this is fun.
I have to ask then, were you a fan of the team up north then prior to FC Cincinnati?
I was.
That's okay.
Brian McBride fan, and
okay.
Yeah. I would go to I wasn't like hardcore MLS fan. I just liked to watch, and national team. I liked the national team. I actually liked the Italian national team. I liked Roberto Baggio. That was my favorite player growing up. Okay. So yeah.
That's cool. So I guess, and then if we transition now to the FC Cincinnati side of thing, if we talk about 2015 early USL days, we talked about, with Columbus, with the US, being established really in Ohio, but then FC Cincinnati coming in, I guess you kind of really found your spot, I guess, with FC Cincinnati. And what's the difference now between covering them from the early USL days to now the current MLS team?
Yeah, I mean, I think I tell this a lot that like I love covering the team now, but there was something special about those USL days because it was just like it was all the anticipation. Like you knew that they were trying to achieve this goal of getting to MLS, and the fans were such a big part of that. And there's obviously still a big part of it, but it was just really fun, especially that Open Cup run in 2017, like just seeing the city embrace the sport that I loved, and just it was just magical. And I mean, the player, it was a lot, like the interviews, like the players. I feel like the locker room now is great, but like the guys that FC Cincinnati has right now, but like the USL guys, like they wanted their stories told, and they knew that they were a part of something special. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's like now that they're in MLS, like there's just this expectation, and I feel like there's so much more pressure around the players or coaches, and all the expectations of the fans, like they feel that, and then it kind of creeps into the writing because you're hearing all the negativity of the fans. It's like you really have to balance that and try to like, okay, like this is still a second place team that we're talking about, like so. But I mean, I still love it. It's just different.
It's a different level. Yeah, right.
So with that, like, I know you talked about USL kind of being a different, way of writing versus now with like the MLS. Do you ever feel like there's almost like a tension between, preserving the authenticity and chasing the growth, right? With moving from USL to MLS, do you feel like that shift? Like, did you ever feel that shift?
Well, I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm just more like, I know USL, you were saying like it was more of like the grassroots. You felt the excitement, whereas like now with the MLS, does it feel like the fan base, like not the fan base itself, but like the interactions with the fan base is a little bit more commercialized rather than authentic?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still authentic. I wouldn't want to say it's not authentic, but it is like, I don't know. The fans are dealing with, constant price increases on their tickets, and like they have all these decisions to make. It was like they didn't have to deal with all that when they were in USL. Like, yeah, they had to pay a little bit more to make sure they could get in when it did get to MLS. But I think it's different because I feel like there's a lot of fans that just want the experience of going to the games now, and it's hard to kind of capture their attention through the course of the season, because they just enjoy the atmosphere and the experience. Whereas, I don't know, there was something with the USL, like people, they felt closer to the players. Maybe, I don't know if that was it, but I felt like they craved more stories and more like, I want to know about this player. And it's harder to get. There are definitely passionate fans now, obviously. But I would say there's a lot of fans that just go to the games and they're there, they enjoy the experience, and then they turn it off all week, and then maybe they come back because they enjoyed it, but they're not consuming it the same as maybe when they felt that connection to the players in USL, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And then there's like the exact opposite on, we call it like the sicko side of it, where, we're subscribing and looking at every, one of your articles and saying who's out there practicing today. So again, shout out to you for being there and giving, that side of the fandom, the information as well. But I guess speaking upon that, we'll talk about this season, let's say this, or even in general, if you want to touch on it. One of your most, memorable interviews or stories or relationships that you've developed over time with a FC Cincinnati person?
Yeah, I've got quite a few. I mean, there's been just a lot of good players coming through. And there's, I would say started like going back to like the first year in MLS. Kendall Waston, I've always said he was so great to deal with because he was on this terrible team, but he was a captain and he knew that like he needed to take responsibility. And not that any other captains since then haven't, like they do, but there was just like, I really respected how he would come out and talk to us anytime and take responsibility for the losses and everything. And he was actually one of my favorite stories because he scored that first goal at Nippert in MLS. And the way he celebrated, like it ended up, I found out that his celebration was based off an interaction with his son, because his son had actually like lost his ability to walk temporarily. And so I don't know if you guys remember that celebration.
No.
There's like a meme of like Homer Simpson on the floor going around in circles.
Oh,
and that's what it kind of looked like. He kind of did that. But that's like how his son, when he couldn't walk, he would lay on the floor and like they would kick the ball around like kind of in circles like that. So that was his goal celebration, and nobody had any idea that was what it actually was. It just looked like Homer Simpson and they kind of meme, but it ended up being a really just fun story because the son did get his feeling back in his legs. That wouldn't have been as good if that was not the case. But actually, it was like right before that game, he was able to walk again.
Wow.
But
that's pretty special.
Yeah. So that was one. I've gotten some really in-depth interviews with Brenner when he left, like, Lucho. I know that was a big deal when there was a lot of drama around him leaving, and I just like those guys had seen me around every day, and it would have been easy when Brenner left to, just move on and not try to tell any. I just felt like with that one, there were so many questions the fans had about like why is he actually leaving, like the way that he's leaving, and no one had talked to him all season. Like he didn't do any interviews, and he was willing to do one. So I actually did it on Zoom when he was already in Italy. And then for him to now be back, like that's just incredible. Like that's
touch on that a little bit more, that specific one, because I feel like that's a very unique piece, right? For you to be able to cover an exit and also cover kind of a resurgence of him coming back to Cincinnati. What was the difference for you? Talking to him both times, like what was the difference in his demeanor and why? Obviously, we read your articles, know why he came back, but what were your takes on that?
Yeah, I mean, he was very immature. Like he'll even say that, everyone around the team would say he was very immature at age whatever it was when he left.
Yeah, 21, 22, 22.
Yeah, 21, 22. And yeah, he, wanted his move. He had a chance to go to a Premier League team. It didn't work out, and he was really frustrated. And so he kind of forced his way out, forced this other move that ended up not being the best move for him. And I think he learned from that. And he ended up getting hurt with Udinese his first season there. And, it turned out like the next year he started doing well once he got back in the team, scored a few goals, and must have had like a, come to Jesus moment. So with Chris Albright, decided he was going to text him and say, hey, I'm sorry, you were trying to help me out. And so that kind of paved the way. And then, for him to, it started back in the winter. They were kind of talking. He was talking with Jeff Birding about maybe coming back. And it's just crazy because the way that he left, like he burned some bridges. And, he still had a good relationship with Pat Noonan when he was here. Like the first time, Pat Noonan did a phenomenal job, I think, of learning to work with Brenner. When Brenner first got here, I don't know if you guys remember this, but he came here, did his physical for preseason, and had to go back to Brazil to get his green card. Yeah. And he missed like the whole preseason, and he was not happy to be. He didn't know what he didn't care about the green card at the time. He was this young player that had goals of leaving. Like he wanted to go to Europe. So it started off a little shaky with him and Pat Noonan because like he missed that whole time of, building up with the new players. And Pat he figured out like this is what makes him tick. And I think that's one of the best things about Pat Noonan just is that he figures out what makes these players tick and learns to work with them, even the guys that maybe are a little more mature. That's been fun to watch. Just I think he doesn't get enough credit for that part of it, but there's been the good and bad. Like Matt Miazga, he didn't particularly like the way I covered his suspension in 2023 during the playoffs, and he kind of called me out and at the end of a press conference. And I've had other players kind of call me out on things, but I'm there all the time. That's what I try to be there so that if they do have issues. And then Matt and I ended up talking in the parking lot later, and he kind of understood my side a little bit more. And but I think that's just like that's been the important thing about consistency and coverage. Just being there every day. The guys know who I am, and so it's just been you asked for memorable interviews. It's just I feel like I should throw out the good and bad, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I get it. I think over time, like you said, the relationships, they kind of either develop one way or the other. And it feels like you've really taken the reins, right, when it comes to the FC Cincinnati coverage and everything. But talking more holistically, we're going to stadium now. TQL Stadium opens in 2021, right after COVID, right? So this is, the year after your Queen City Press, baby that you've, founded, starting 2021. Obviously, the stadium's beautiful. Is there a favorite stadium that you've been able to, cover sports in, whether it be USL, MLS, NFL, maybe unique, anything like that?
I mean, the best stadium I did get to cover the Super Bowl in 2021, the 2021 season. So SoFi Stadium is amazing. Like, it's incredible. Let's see, I'm trying to think, so I've been to Nashville. Like, I feel like that was a decent, like, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I went to Austin. That one's also kind of weird. I think that one does not make any sense to me. Because the whole thing with Columbus and why Precourt wanted to leave Columbus was because he couldn't get a stadium downtown and blah, blah, blah. Like, he needed to be in a city. And then he goes to Austin and they build, like, there's like a mall kind of nearby, but it's not downtown. So I don't get that one. But that was a cool stadium. It was freezing. I went for Pat Noonan's first game when they went there in 2022.
Wasn't a great game.
Yeah, not a good. We were still on Zoom, like, for interviews coming out of COVID protocols still. So it was like, why am I here? It's cold. Like, they didn't have heat in the press box because they're not used to cold. And trying to think what else. New York Red Bulls, like, that used to be the best press box because you were basically sitting behind. Yeah, you were outside and you were right behind the coaches, so you could hear, like, what they were saying. And that was like, I would never report anything that, I felt like, would be a tactical disadvantage to them for me to report, but it was helpful to kind of hear what they were saying sometimes. And that's disappointing because they ended up turning that into, like, a special, like, club seating
suite or something. Yeah.
So I think Carter Chapley, when they went to Red Bulls last Saturday, he was tweeting about, I guess he's, like, way up in the corner. That's where the press box is now. Philadelphia, that view with the bridge, like, that one's really cool. Most of my stadiums that I've been to in MLS, I guess, are the newer ones.
So safe to say, it sounds like we're pretty spoiled with having TQL, in your opinion.
Yes, TQL is amazing. My only complaint there is I wish the windows opened, like, in the press box.
Yeah,
so
you could, like, hear
like, lower.com in Columbus, like, I know one of my colleagues in the media calls it like a belt buckle. If you look down, it just looks like a belt buckle, and just black. There's nothing, like, that stands out about the, like, aesthetics of it, but their press box, the windows do open, and so when they're doing their pregame stuff, you can actually feel, like, the heat of the fire stuff going in the field, and but their press box is, like, there's no room to move. Like, they did not design it well. So I can point out all the flaws and
any Columbus flaws. Yes, we'll take it.
Well, I was going to say in DC's apparently the sight lines too from there, from what I hear, aren't great too. But yeah, we just wanted to get your insight because we had asked, I think, Carter before, we've asked Tommy, so we wanted to hear from you as well. But as we move to the 2025 season, we're kind of on the horizon of the playoffs here. What would you say has been the biggest storyline for FC Cincinnati in 2025? That's kind of a loaded question. There's been so many stories, a lot of things going on, but in your opinion?
Well, I think for right now, you would probably think, like, Brenner coming back was pretty big, just considering his history, like, when he left, like I said. But I think, the biggest story this year has clearly been that shift from Lucho to Vander. Like, that was something early on. Everyone was curious what it was going to look like. Lucho was a former MVP, and Evander, I think I doubted him at first, I'll admit too. Like I just didn't see him. Like I was so used to Lucho just always wanting the ball and commanding, like, but he would have these phenomenal passes, and then you start seeing Evander doing that, and it's like, oh, okay. It just, he's just not demanding the ball all the time, and it just looks different. Like you feel like he disappears in games, and then all of a sudden he has 2 goals and an assist or whatever. And I think he is a very special player. It's just it's different, and he's gonna need to step up big in the playoffs. He's kind of dropped off again a little bit, so I'm curious to see what he does come playoff time, because he does want it. Like he left Portland in part because they weren't serious about winning, and I think he's enjoying that part of it here.
No, yeah, I think Ryan and I kind of had the same kind of, I guess, introduction to him, right? As like, or same thought, was like, man, at the beginning of the season, it was kind of like, man, this isn't kind of working, not really gelling. He looks too lackadaisical, right? But we just weren't used to, like you said, having somebody in the middle being, our number 10 and not wanting the ball all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing too is Ryan and I, we've watched, throughout the season, and you look at him and you go like, you go take over, go do something in the first half, right? Nothing happens in the first half, and then he'll save the day in the second half, scoring, like you said, like 2 goals within like 5 minutes, and everything will be okay, right? So he's pretty incredible. And
I think it's just more of like a silent way of how he does it, compared to what we had seen, maybe. And I don't know if that's the case, in covering the team and being there day to day. It seemed like there was an energy around Lucho, and there's kind of more of there's a following around Evander, and people seem to, gravitate towards him, but it's not as like, you don't see it as much. It's more in the shadows with some things, I feel like.
Well, he's a lot less emotional than Lucho. So like, you just don't see like when he's frustrated, you can probably tell, but it's not like when Lucho was frustrated.
Yeah.
And I just think it's like different personalities. And I was fascinated when, we were doing, I don't even remember when it was, probably around the All-Star game. We were talking to a bunch of players about him, and it came out that I think DeAndre Yedlin was the one that, I think it was him, that had started calling him the bridge, because he does connect with everyone in the locker room. And it's like, wow, I had no idea, because he's so like just calm and quiet. I wouldn't have imagined that. So it kind of opened your eyes a little bit to, okay, maybe he is a little bit more of a, I guess, bridge than
I will say it was not, I don't know if you caught any of it, but when Speed was doing his live stream in the training ground, like that, we actually got to see like a lot of behind the scenes that we don't normally see, right? I feel like that's the most behind the scenes we've ever gotten to see. And you got to see Evander kind of interacting with not only him, but his teammates, right? And some other guys. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that there's been a lot of like transformation in the roster too over the past season.
Yeah.
So, I feel like in reestablishing relationships with players too, have you found that like over the year, it seems like this team, obviously is very willing to, gel, and you could see it kind of with the transfer games and things like that. But have you kind of sensed that too? Like they've made a good connection even in this first year with so many different players.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, like, because there's just so many different personalities, and it's just been, it took a while, I think, and you're still waiting for those, 4-0 games. This offense, I think, is capable, the attack is capable of a lot more, and some of that is the chemistry. But again, in the summer, they brought in, 5 new players, and it was already like a lot of guys in the beginning trying to get used to each other, and then they have further roster turnover. And I think that's actually like, I've been saying, like, some of those moves were tough because they did lose a couple leaders and some guys in the locker room that were kind of gel pieces. With Sergio, like, he wasn't playing a lot, but everyone loved him. And like, even going back to Philadelphia, like there were players in that locker room that were really upset when Philadelphia traded him to FC Cincinnati because he was just so important to their locker room, and they felt like that negatively impacted the team. And I don't think that's I think this team has handled that. But the roster that they have now is definitely, it's deeper and it's built for a playoff run, I would say.
So I guess, that transitions us now to looking at this. You did it perfectly, so thank you for that. But
the one good segues here.
The one thing they must get right, is it really just finding that final gel between all of these new pieces, you think, or to go to the Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like I said. I think Evander is kind of the key. Like they're gonna need him. Like he is that bridge. I'll go back to that because it's such a good nickname for him. But yeah, I mean, they do need to find those connections still. I think it does hurt a little bit that Kevin Denke has been away during this international break. Like, don't fault him at all. Like he should, and that's an important thing for guys to be able to go to their national teams. But Togo was out of the World Cup, so maybe that's even more like significant that he was willing to go back, and that means so much to him. But it's kind of an important time for them to, there's still, connections being made with Brenner and, Dom Marsick, he's, fallen off a little bit. They're not starting him like they were when he first got here, but, just those connections I think are really important. So it's kind of a little disappointing that they're not all, together in training this week. And obviously Denke will be out versus Montreal because of yellow card suspension. So that's another missed opportunity. But I just think it's going to come down to Evander at some point is just going to have to, take it up a notch and just get it done. And I think I think that Kevin will definitely be involved in the, what they're doing successfully in the attack during the playoffs. But it's been a lot of fun seeing Evander and Brenner, just that connection that they've built.
Laurel, I have to ask, we talked about Matt a little bit earlier, and obviously, he's had a little bit of a setback that we've, heard of now, but is he still been kind of like present and around? I'm sure like as a natural leader, of the defense, because that's, I think the concern right now is on that side of the ball. But from what I heard, even last year, he was still that person around and mentoring some of the younger guys too. You think that's still the case then?
Yeah, he's definitely still around. I think that's my one concern is like, I know he's lost a step. Like you can see like his last few games that he did play, he had some really uncharacteristic turnovers that I don't know, maybe he wasn't feeling quite right and it was in his head or something. I don't know, but I still feel like just his leadership back there and the communication, like Pat Noonan will even tell you that, like that's the biggest thing that they're missing is his ability to organize that defense. And I've said also, like, I think it kind of helps that Evan Loro kind of has that same kind of personality. I mean, they're both New Jersey guys. And they've kind of got that like bite to them. And I think that's kind of helped while Matt is out, that they've had Evan in there because he's just kind of the one barking at the defense and telling them where to be. But I think they have depth, I think, across the board. I think they're okay at center back, but it's so different when Matt is out there. Like, I just feel like he makes Miles. Like, Miles is a very good center back. Like, but I think he's even better when he's with Matt Miazga. Like, those two together, like, man, you just want to see that. So hopefully hopefully he can get back. It seems like, based on the timeline at this point, it'd be like 2 to 3 weeks. And fortunately that first round is basically like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
I have this thing like in my head that I haven't like formally said anywhere, but like I felt like if Matt and Miles played more this season, we would have won the Shield. Like I really do feel like, because the stretch that he was out with the U.S., that Matt was out at the beginning of the season. Like I feel like a full back line that was cohesive throughout the season, it would have been maybe a little bit different in terms of getting a trophy for that. But
that's back-to-back seasons of if Matt Miazga back line. You know what I mean? Like that's big ifs right there, back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, it's tough, but we'll see. I mean, I do think the roster is built more for the Cup, so I'm not as worried about them not getting the Shield. Like, I mean, it would be nice to have home field advantage to the playoffs, but I mean, let's be honest, they've been better on the road. So
yeah, that's right. So Laura, I know today was just announced that FC Cincinnati qualified for the Champions Cup, and I just wanted to ask you, I know I saw that you hinted in a tweet earlier today about how many players in the Champions Cup graphic would be on the team next season. Luka, Brenner, and Evander were all on the graphic. What were the thoughts behind that, or what are your thoughts kind of going into Champions Cup next season?
Well, I mean, as far as that tweet, it's just like for Brenner to be here next year, a DP has to leave. And I know some people took that as, well, Kevin Denke is not in the photo. Maybe he's not going to be here. But I do think there could be some crazy offer out there for Kevin Denke, like some team. And I mean, he had interest in Europe before he came here. I don't necessarily think he's leaving, but I could see them getting a crazy offer for him or Evander. And Evander already, like, he does have aspirations. Like that was part of, he had teams in Turkey looking at him when he was in Portland, and Portland said no. And that kind of also went into his, being disgruntled there. But, I think his situation here is obviously different. He's winning games, and, that was a big part of it that he didn't have in Portland. So, but yeah, it'll just be interesting because it's like, well, if Brenner is here, then who's not? Because
he's not staying on a TAM deal.
No, I mean, the purchase option, from what I'm told, is about $6.2 million. So there's no way he could not be a DP next year. And my understanding is, like, there's been speculation that, well, maybe the league is adding a fourth DP. I've kind of been asking around, and nobody's, like, maybe they're just keeping it really quiet. But from what I can tell, that's not the plan. So we'll see. I mean, I don't believe that they could have brought Brenner back without there being some plan of, well, this could happen and you could stay. Like,
right.
So
especially with how much you're seeing, him being happy here now too, especially.
Yeah. Well, he wants to stay he's already, like, jotted down his goals through, like, 2029. Like, he wants to stay. So,
wow.
So
that's awesome.
that's great for FC Cincinnati because he is motivated. Like, you want a motivated player. He wants to score goals. He wanted to score 4 goals, and, like, he initially put, like, 4 goals in his time, like, this season, and then he scored 3, and he's like, oh, maybe I need to update that. So we'll see. I mean, I think
one more game, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Montreal, they struggled.
Yeah.
We'll see a 4-0 win on Saturday.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of big storylines, like we're saying. Obviously we'll get through this playoff stretch and kind of see where things go and take it one, event at a time there. But Laura, we want to thank you again for coming on. We wanted to ask you, what's some advice that you would give someone wanting to go into sports journalism? Yeah,
I would say for, like, younger people just trying to get in, like, really it's just about gaining as much experience as you can, just showing up. And I know, like, some people will even just, like, watch games and try to write a game story from TV. And, like, I've had people send me, like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, that's, like, do that. Like, I mean, if that's how you can practice and get better, do that. Like, I would say covering high school football, there's a lot of newspapers that need freelancers to go cover high school football. See if there's someone you can do that. Like, just get the experience however you can. As far as, like, the tough thing about covering sports is, like, probably everyone doing it is a sports fan. So, you have to get used to, like, I mean, even I grew up in Cincinnati, so I grew up a Bengals fan to some extent. They were awful when I was growing up, but they went to a Super Bowl when I was in 2nd grade, and that kind of, like, that was a big deal. And so now I'm covering them, and it's like, I'm so far removed from fandom. I don't even know how to be a fan anymore, but, like, when you're first getting started, like, you just have to understand, like, you're not there to please the team you cover. You're doing the fans a disservice if that's all you're there for. So just, trying to put that fandom out of mind, and just, it can be tough, I'm sure, when you're first getting started. I'm so far removed from that now, though. So, but yeah, just, like I said, like, get the practice however you can. Try to just be professional and put that, like, fandom aside.
No, the bias is, like you said, it's very hard to set aside. I know even Ryan and I try the best we can, but at the end of the day, we're an FC Cincinnati podcast, right? So it's.
I mean, there's a place for the fan run media. Like that's especially in soccer. Like there's not enough traditional media outlets covering things, and you guys do provide a service that I come at a different perspective than you guys, and it's all good. I feel like it's all good.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. So where can people follow you as far as going forward, social media? How can they support your work on various platforms?
Yeah, so I'm on Patreon. So it is subscription based, but you can always, there's free trial options. So, don't let that deter you. If money is an issue, I work with people. If they need a discount, I can give discounts every now and then. So, I just, I'm here for the fans. So I want people to see my work, but so patreon.com/Queen City Press. And then I'm on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads. I'm on Instagram, but I don't use it I have a Queen City Press Instagram that is mostly like my photographer. I just kind of post his stuff there, but most Twitter is where I'm most active because it's just, I've been on it the longest. That's where all my followers are. So, but yeah, reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions anytime. So.
Yeah, thank you again. Like the only non-FC Cincinnati employee person to cover the team on a daily basis, guys. Go check out Laurel's work. She does awesome work. Thanks again, Laurel, for joining us.
Thank you. It was so much fun. So anytime.
Hey, everyone. Just a quick message from Ryan and Sam here at the Flying Lion Podcast. We wanted to share some exciting news with you. The Flying Lion Podcast has officially partnered with Chatterbox Sports. We are very excited to be a part of the Chatterbox community as they have proven to give you the very best coverage of Cincinnati sports thus far.
For those who are new to the Flying Line podcast, we cover FC Cincinnati news, game recaps, analysis, and unique segments such as our trivia question of the week, jersey swap of the week, card of the week. Give us a listen on our post-match shows on every away game on Chatterbox YouTube and our weekly episodes wherever you get your podcast. Thank you again for your support.
Thanks again to Laurel Pfahler for joining us. That was a fun interview. Always great to chat with her about the team. Again, somebody that's been covering the team since like day one. So to have that kind of input, to see where, it's been covering the team from the very trenches, the beginning of the entire team or organization all the way to, current day. You don't get that a lot in sports. So again, we really appreciate Laurel coming on and giving some fun stories too, Sam. But FC Cincinnati, guys, in this part of the last episode, we talked on international window. So we'll chat a little bit about some results for some players. We did qualify for Concacaf Champions Cup, so we'll cover that as well. And then we're going to give you an official preview for our game coming up, our last home match, CF Montreal. I know the season's been so long. It's now the 34th game, but it also feels kind of quick. But like I said, FC Cincinnati qualified for the Concacaf Champions Cup. That officially happened last night when LAFC lost. I was kind of shocked about it. Austin ends up beating them. So we're the 7th team to qualify. Give us more credit than that, Sam. 7th team to qualify in the MLS for this. And again, this is going to be drawn in December as to kind of what pot we're in and where we're going to play. But I think, Sam, would you agree? Another huge honor for us.
Oh, absolutely. I think this team, once again, we're going to be playing with the best in North America, and we absolutely deserve it, right? We fought all season for this, this spot. Obviously, would have liked it to be, and still can be, a better spot. Ryan, FC Cincinnati could still go into the competition as an MLS Cup champion, right? So instead of just making it due to the standings, we could be a champion going into the Champions Cup. How good would that be? Come on now.
No, and that would also mean a bye. So we could kind of move past that first round, which we just, unfortunately, we've gotten past the initial one. We've gone to the Mexican Giants after with Monterrey and with Tigres this year. But like you put in our outline here, Sam, for you guys listening, why is this a big deal? it's the Champions League of, the area we're in. I mean, these are the best teams in the region, North Central America. If we win, we get a chance to potentially play in Club World Cup as well. So that's pretty special. But yeah, I think for the third year in a row, this has happened. And, Pat Noonan's been here for 4. 3 out of the 4 we've qualified. I think that's a huge deal, or it should be. Maybe it's not quite there yet, but it should be a big deal for players looking to come to FC Cincinnati. Like, hey, you're going to be playing in meaningful competition, whether that is, Champions Cup, whether that is Leagues Cup, if we really want to go there, but you're playing some good teams. You're getting that exposure, especially even if you want to jump to the next level. So happy to see them kind of, qualify, I guess, this early. I don't think we quite did last year. Maybe it was at the very, very end as well. But cool to see nonetheless. But as we move on, international window is still going on. We had 7 players that have been called up. We talked about them last time a little bit, but we'll give you some updates on these guys. First one was teenage Hidebe Sam for Zimbabwe. He played last Friday, the 10th against South Africa. He played all 90 minutes. He did have his patented bicycle kick. If you saw his post on social media about that, I think that's just become like his thing. Him and Anunga, again, I feel like love to do this. And then they did have a game today, but he was on the bench. They lost that one. It doesn't look like, Sam, that Zimbabwe is going to make it to World Cup qualifying in their region. I don't think any of the guys in Africa are going to, unfortunately. But that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It is what it is. But, it was very funny seeing the bicycle kick photo. I thought that was funny. But, another guy, Ryan, I think this, once again, we said this last episode, Ender Echenike was another guy that got called up for the Venezuelan national team. His first senior team call up, and unfortunately, he was not able to do anything. He reported to camp, and he kind of picked up a groin injury, the last time he played for FC Cincinnati, last time out, and he was kind of sent back home. So he was there for camp just to kind of be around the guys and maybe, say, hey, I'm here. I did it. Can I get a glimpse of like, okay, I want to come back, but that was kind of a shame to see.
Yeah, I just feel like a guy that is really going to break onto the scene. We've seen it already, how he's made the starting lineup with FC Cincinnati. A bummer to see him have this in this timing, especially with the unknowns about Luka Orishana right now. Who are the wingbacks, Sam? Like, that's the huge question. Is it Dom Marzuk? Probably. Is it Engel? Most likely as the other side. But there's questions. Like, it's not necessarily your first choice wingbacks. I think Ender's become that. And yeah, it was a cool honor. But unfortunately, he doesn't get to play. He at least gets to go around the guys, like you said. But hopefully, I think there's going to be a next time for him if he keeps up what he's doing. But as everyone wants to know, Miles Robinson, our U.S. representative player, Sam, he started in a match against Ecuador, a huge match, if we want to call this friendly, because it in some ways can help to decide World Cup standings or kind of how these pots are going to be shaped out. He started. He played 63 minutes. He looked pretty solid overall. I think he had some really good moments. I saw some comments online that the goal wasn't, necessarily great for him. In that moment, I really think that it's a one-on-one battle on a transition moment. I think Miles gets caught up a little bit high. Miles has got the track back speed. Like, he definitely could have gotten to the guy if he was there. He was marking his guy a little bit farther out. So I'm not going to give him any blame, for that. A lot of people don't want to pencil him in after it, though. I think that's interesting. They really, I think, are trying to get Mark McKenzie to be that right center back. And everyone's like, it's going to be Mark. It's going to be Mark. And then he comes in and he's like, not playing as good as Miles is. Even Alex Freeman, who subbed, for Miles. So interesting to see. Tomorrow we play Australia. So Tuesday night, or tonight as you're listening, if you listen to our not the live. But look for Miles to maybe, would you say, Sam, take hold of this spot? Because right now it's up for grabs. There's a big hole open in that back line.
No, I know looking at the roster coming into this match against Ecuador, I know the thing that stood out to a lot of people was, we're doing a 3-back, right? This is the first time Pochettino's been experimenting with this, and obviously the mainstay is going to be Chris Richards, but those 2 other spots, right, like you said, kind of up for grabs. And in the 11 itself, the back line is something that just isn't solidified right now for the U.S. men's national team. So it'll be very interesting to see, who he rolls out for, against Australia. Like Ryan said, that'll be today or tomorrow, depending on when you're listening. And then the next guy that we're going to highlight is Kevin Denke with Togo. He played the Congo on the 10th, played all 90 in a loss to the Congo. And then he played this morning against South Sudan, once again, all 90 in a draw. So once again, a guy that went for World Cup qualifiers. Togo's already out, like Laurel said. Why did he go? It is what it is, but he represented his country and, he put it out on the field. Right. Yeah. But Ryan, I think you're missing that. Like Denke was the first guy to do a bicycle kick for FC Cincinnati. And then Anunga and Hadebe were like, oh, that looks pretty cool. So
one was scoring a goal. The other two was clearing the ball. They're all doing their job, but it's more impressive when Denke puts it in the back of the net, in my opinion. Sam, we had Kai Kamara. I'm going to touch on him a little bit later. But Stefan Shirilla, Romania U19s. He did play. He had a 60-minute sub appearance in a 3-1 victory for them against Cyprus. And then Samuel Giddy, Slovakia's U21 team, played all 90 minutes in a 2-2 draw against Ireland. He's got a match coming up tomorrow. Again, I believe the U21 guys are looking to qualify for their, I believe it's their European Cup is what they're looking. It's not necessarily the World Cup, the European Cup. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why he went over for that and representing Slovakia. But Sam, another big news this week comes out. I think you broke this one, at least on our side of things, but MLS 22 under 22. So the top 22 players under the age of 22 in the MLS. We got snubbed a little bit, but we have a little bit of some conversation about this, Sam. I think me and you go back and forth a little bit about it. So let's hear your side first.
No, I know. So obviously MLS 22 under 2, if you didn't see, this is pretty much the MLS putting their best 22 players that are under the age of 22 out. I believe it used to be under 24 or under 23 at one point, but they have now since moved it down to 22 the past 6-7 years, something like that. Ever since, youth has kind of been brought back into the U.S. soccer sphere, which has been nice. So Dado Valenzuela was on the bubble on the article. It was number 29, so missed it by 7 spots. This is the second straight season he's kind of missed the under 22. But last year we had a representation in Kevin Kelsey, right? So we didn't get one this year. And so some candidates would have been Dado, Ender, Samuel Giddy, Marzuk, just a couple of the guys, right, that could have gotten shouts. Not surprising, like you said, but I think Dado's having a career year and he deserved to at least be number 22 or 21 because I think he's shown a lot of promise. I mean, this kid's still 20 years old, right? Some of these guys on the list are 21 or are about to be 22. So I know there's a threshold, right, within the criteria, right, that you have to meet. But I also, if Samuel Giddy, well, he's 21 now, right? Mm-hmm. If people were talking about how good this kid is when we signed him, right? Maybe he should have made the list as well.
Sample size in the MLS, like I think that's for me. Like if you look at Alex Freeman, he started and played the whole year. He's on the U.S. team. There's a lot more exposure for some of the bigger names. I think Kevin Kelsey's on there now. He's been in the MLS for. People just don't know. I think obviously we know we're biased, but they don't know. But
so I do. The sample size I want to push back on because there are some guys on this list, Ryan, that are MLS NEXT Pro.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, but this is the MLS 22 under 20, not the MLS NEXT 22.
No, I'm saying like the guys on the list, right?
They've been around.
Most of their games are played on MLS NEXT Pro, and they're making it into the MLS.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's why Giddy deserves a shout because if he was so highly touted, like holy crap, how did FC Cincinnati get him?
We know how the MLS does like any sort of ranking, Sam. Their power rankings are garbage. So is totally irrelevant. Like, it's just a talking point. But Sam, I think you do have a trivia question for us this week.
Yes. Yeah. So once again, trivia question. We'll just go right through, no break, since we had the interview with Laurel. But Ryan, FC Cincinnati is competing in their 7th season in the MLS this year. How many players have they had on the MLS 22 under 22 list? Name those players if you can, and then what player has had the highest ranking?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 4, and I think Kelsey's one of them. Amaya's one of them. Past that, honestly, I have no clue. That's a good question.
All right, so you'll lock in the number 4, and you've got 2 guys that we can name. We'll kind of see what it is at the end of the episode, but to kind of continue here, we're going to do kind of a different version of our jersey swap this week. Obviously, you may have noticed, may have not, during our little international duty breakdown, we didn't mention a guy named Kai Kamara, our 40-year-old man on our roster, and that's because we want to give our jersey swap to him this week. Ryan, he announced that he is officially, after retiring once, he is officially retiring from Sierra Leone in international football as it is. So we want to congratulate him on a great season that he's had so far, and a great career internationally and in the MLS. Just what a great role model. What a guy to kind of model your game after. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, I'm reading his post and saying, back in June of 2008, I made a commitment to serve this nation. That's a long time to, serve this team. He was the captain. He was their number 10. It's pretty cool, that he made a pretty good run to get them to the World Cup as well. They fell short, just barely actually in this qualification. Otherwise, I think he would have, continued maybe for another year. But it is cool to see. And, we're proud of Kai and all of his accomplishments. And, we're new to this in Kai's long history, in the MLS. But yeah, what a legend. We just wanted to shout him out for our jersey swap, and happy retirement to him from international ball. But he's got to go win a cup with FC Cincinnati now. So we're not going to say total retirement yet. But Sam's on the flip side, we'll do our cards this week. What did you have? Yeah, so card of the week for me, if anybody was watching the U.S. youth national team play in the U20 World Cup, they lost on Sunday to Morocco, and was the end of their road. In this competition, Ryan, they won their group, which included France, and then they beat Italy in the round of 16. So things were looking really promising for this squad. Unfortunately, history was against them. This U.S. youth national team U20 squad has only made it past the quarterfinals one time in their U20 World Cup history. Oh, wow. They've now lost 5 straight years in the World Cup quarterfinals. Now they wait 2 more years to try again. They play every 2 for the young? Yeah. Really? Yeah, for the U20 World Cup, they played every 2 years. Oh, wow. Yeah, well, so, I mean, what's we're not going to do a deep dive here of the U.S. youth national team, but what's going on? We made the quarterfinals for the young teams. What's going on with the senior team? Yeah, I guess there's a translation between, professional players and, the youth, right? It's the development, right? Well, and maybe the best players aren't even playing for their 20s because they've already skipped and they've gone, 23s or to their senior team. That could be a reason potentially as well. Yeah, almost like a C team, right? Yeah, you don't have your best guys, but yeah. Ryan, what was your card of the week? Sam, this is one that's relevant, with our interview with Laurel here this week. The MLS AI generated articles are a bunch of baloney. I don't know what the MLS is doing using these bots to create these recaps that we saw in the Orlando versus Vancouver match this past weekend. Tom Bogert, I think, highlighted it well in his tweet. It's absolutely ridiculous that you have all of these willing writers that are being let go from different places, more than willing to cover, MLS, as we've seen with Laurel, and they decide to go with an AI generated article, for this recap. What are we doing, man? there's all of these great people that write these fantastic stories. I unfortunately feel like you're going to see some trends this way, but MLS, you did not need to do this, and this is not the time as well. I don't like it. I think Laurel would attest with that, and say that she doesn't like it too. We actually talked to her about it, but yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, to all those listening, I don't think Ryan and I will ever become AI. I think we can promise you that one, right, Ryan? I think we're good on that. But yeah, this is ridiculous, right? Like I think we were talking to Laura beforehand, right? How easy it is to just pay a college kid or somebody coming right out of college or even high school, right? That has a passion and is a good writer, right? Obviously, you need a portfolio or a resume, but give somebody else an opportunity, right? If money is the issue, give somebody that's just wanting experience.
Yeah, I don't like it, especially again from the league being the one that is doing this. I wonder if AI generated the power rankings. That would make a lot of sense now based on what we've been seeing with them.
They were trying it out with the power rankings.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But Sam, FC Cincinnati 2 did get their draw. They are going to be playing the Philly 2 team in their playoff game. They're going to be hosting them actually on Sunday, October 19th at 4 p.m. It's going to be at Subaru Park. You said that we're going to be hosting them. I don't think that's true considering it's at Subaru. But
yeah.
That's okay. We're a low seed. So that's what made me think like, wait a second, I don't think that's true. But they made it, as we talked about last time, they're in. That's exciting. The second year in a row now that they've done this. I hope that they can go in and win in Philly. That'd be special. I believe they beat them earlier on this season. Historically, we've had, I think, 5 all-time wins in the series against them. So this famed, Philly Academy, and we've done fairly well. So I hope that we can kind of shock the world in a little bit and get the win in the playoffs. This was a pick your opponent. So Philly chose Cincinnati. And I hope again that we can go and do this.
No, and if anybody saw, there was kind of videos that the MLS NEXT Pro did where the coaches of the other team FaceTimed, the coaches of the team that they were going to pick, and Philly FaceTimed FC Cincinnati. And it was a little, it was weird. Let's call it what it is. It was weird. It was awkward because you're FaceTiming the guy and you want to talk smack, but at the same time, you want to be PG about it. Right. But yeah, I think historically we've had their number, which is nice. And the winner advances to the semifinals, which is October 24th and 26th. So we'll see if the young Garys can keep it rolling, right?
Yeah, I think that would be special. Another thing to, keep an eye on, I guess. And it's cool that it's rolling to their playoffs quicker. I think that's the way the MLS should model theirs. Now, should they do the, pick your opponent thing? That would be interesting. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. We've been covering them all year. I think this is kind of cool to kind of see them grasp it and to make the playoffs because of where they were at in June. Again, they were in like last place. So it is even kind of special that they're there. Now, roster-wise, we sneaked it a little bit last time. I think we probably see, Stefan Chirilla, Kenji Mambadem. We see a lot of first-team guys that are playing with them, and that could make a difference, in the result for this one. But, Sam, like I had mentioned, this final preview we're going to do for the CF Montreal game. Again, last home game, fan appreciation. We did a little bit from last time because honestly, we thought the game was going to be the weekend prior, but it's actually this coming weekend, and that's okay. CF Montreal is not good, like we had mentioned before. They're 13th in the East. We won the previous matchup, again, 3-1 in June. There was going to be a little bit more at stake in terms of a Champions Cup spot, but then thank you, LAFC. You gave us that spot in your loss. But there is something still to play for. I think what someone was asking us on the line was, did we lock up that number 2 spot for the playoffs? And that's not completely locked up yet. It's between us and Inter Miami, I believe, for that second spot. If we end up winning and they end up winning, we do have the tiebreak because of wins. So hopefully we can do that. I think this, again, is a very gettable game. We talked about that a lot last time. The question is going to be, who's available. Honestly, there's a lot of injuries going on right now, Sam, and the Ender one only complicates it.
No, yeah, I also, not having Denke, right? Like Laurel kind of touched on, complicates it as well. You're kind of trying to figure out like, okay, well, Ender's injured. Matt Miazga's going to be out for a little while longer. Oh, we don't have Denke. So how can we build momentum going into the playoffs with, hopefully a somewhat similar squad, right? So that way it's not completely rotated and guys are unfamiliar in this match. So yeah, Ryan, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We'll see kind of how they do with Montreal. But yeah, have we heard anything on Orishano? I know I probably should have asked Laurel while we had him on.
Mum is the word, but by the likes of it and the way that he was pulling up, it didn't look great. Now, I don't think this game again is as vital as getting him healthy, for a first round of the playoffs. But it still kind of creates an issue in a back line where, at least on wing backs, we talked about the issues there. Brad Smith was the other guy that we had as a backup, and he's out for the season. Orishano's out, Ender's out probably. So Dom Marjuk and maybe Lucas Engel, are your wing backs starting. Is it Hidebe? Is it Hagelin? From that standpoint, it's probably not Flores. We haven't seen him in a while, but Miles Robinson in there. The back line has some questions in this one, but again, I don't know if they have to be necessarily great against this CF Montreal team. But to your point, we need to kind of roll into the playoffs. So getting a good result. I think personally, having Brenner and Evander step up and really connect in this game is going to be huge. These guys were around this past week. They've been training together even more. It only builds in their relationship, and that could be vital. Like Laurel said, is like we need Evander to be Evander, and the dominant Evander that we saw, his emotion against Monterrey. That was the one time maybe I've seen him kind of livid like that. So yeah, we'll see about that. Past that, Sam, do you think Obi is going to start or be on the bench?
I think he'll be on the bench in this one, just to get his sea legs underneath him. I think obviously him being back in the squad is phenomenal. But considering he wasn't even in the 18 right for the last match, I'd say you start him out on the bench and put Anunga or Giddy as the starters and just put him in, maybe let him play the second 45 or maybe do a subs in at 60 minutes. But I would kind of imagine that's how it would go on that.
Yeah, no, good point. And I think, now we have a little bit more luxury in the midfield that we haven't had all season. If you think about like the depth there now with, Kubu, I guess could back up. You have Anunga, you have Giddy, you have Buka, you have Obi, you have options. So I think that's nice to see as we move forward. If we want to look at a positive note about, getting some guys back. But Sam, prediction wise, I know you've had a week to kind of sit on this now. What are your thoughts?
I'm still going to go 3-0. I think we come out hot. And Ryan, the biggest takeaway for me, I think Jabari gets his first FC Cincinnati goal.
All right. Shout out to Ayub Jabari. Hopefully that he can get a goal. I think he's going to start. I think with Denke out, he'll probably get the nod up there playing with Brenner. I like it. He's looked good in limited minutes. So I would love to see him get a goal. A headed goal? When's the last time we had a headed goal? It's been a long time. I think that would be pretty cool.
We've thrown that stat out there so many times.
It's
wonderful every time it happens because it's astonishing that we're like, oh, I feel like we've never seen it before.
Besides, like a free kick goal from Evander's shot, when's the last time we had a corner header goal? It's been a while. That being said, 2-0 for me is what I'm going to go with. We're going to see a 2-goal victory again.
Back-to-back matches for Evan Lauro. Clean sheet.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to play and start? I don't know.
He's hot.
Yeah. Sam's riding the Laurel train right now. I like it. We'll see if him or Roman get the nod there. But I think hopefully, again, we can win this match in front of our fans and kind of get things rolling into the playoffs, get the excitement built back up, because, again, we've had so many international breaks here at the end. We're still playing soccer. We're still in it. We still have the playoffs to go.
Get excited.
We're excited about it. But, Sam, give us our answer for our trivia question.
Yes. So once again, trivia question of the week presented by Goals TV is FC Cincinnati is competing in their 7th season in the MLS. How many players have they had on the MLS 22 under 22 list? Ryan said Frankie Amaya, right? And Kevin Kelsey, right?
Yep. But I said I locked in 4. I didn't know the other 2.
Yes, 4 people. So the answer would be 3. We have had 3 players in the 22 MLS 22 under 22, right? So the first one being Frankie Amaya in 2020, and he was ranked number 15th. And then in 2021, Brenner was ranked number 14th. So he is the highest player that we have had ranked. He nobody under 14 for us, right?
Wow.
14 is how, the lowest it goes, right, for us. And then, of course, last year, once again, with Kevin Kelsey, he was also ranked 15th.
Dang, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Good deep dive there. I like it.
Yeah, nice little tidbit, right?
We've had some really solid young players, but to not see them ranked, super high, national media, AI, AI, again, we're going to blame it on the MLS AI, but that's okay. Thanks again to Laurel Pfahler for joining us tonight. We had an awesome interview with her. If you guys missed it at the beginning, go back and check it out. Sam, hopefully we'll be rolling into playoffs with a win and 3 points to get that number 2 spot, potentially lining us up with Orlando right now, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of here at the end of the season. If you get a chance, go out to the game, fan appreciation night. So they got to be giving you something, right? There's going to be a lot of free stuff. So go take advantage of all the free stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, check us out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. We'll roll out our reels from the week, and we'll see you guys next time.